Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Effective Business Planning, in partnership with Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand and the Ice House. Today we have John Schol presenting from Malloch McClean. So welcome John, thank you for being here. John is the CEO of the chartered accounting firm Malloch McClean and holds a Masters of Business Administration. He is a fellow chartered accountant, holds a certificate of public practice with Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand. And he is also a chartered member of the Institute of Directors. John is both a Trans-Tasman and New Zealand Regional Counsellor for Chartered Accountant Australia and New Zealand. He is a professional director at several large local government companies and chairs of the Audit and Risk Committee. Other governance roles include a local social enterprise company, as well as several other private organisations. In addition, he serves on the Southern Institute of Technology's Business Consultative Group and on the Board of Trustees at St John's Girls' School, which is pretty cool. John recently authored the book, The 4-Hour Business Plan, to demystify the business planning process, which we're going to talk a lot more about today. He helps business owners make more money, pay less tax legally, and gets ahead faster. John's goal is to help more business leaders align their personal and business goals and overcome the roadblocks that stand in the way of their success through effective planning. That is pretty awesome. Welcome, John. So awesome to have you here.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, Briar. It's great to be here, and just want to thank the audience for tuning in and giving their time to hear what we've got to talk about today.
Awesome, totally. Don't know when you get time to do all of that, but it's pretty good bio. That's awesome.
Exhaustive, didn't it? Really, when I was listening to it as well, I thought, where's the time going? But there we go. So, look, let's crack into it.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'd love to start with the thought of the day, and I always start with the thought of the day whenever I'm doing any sort of presentation. And the thought of the day today is plans are nothing and planning is everything. And the reason why I like this is because it's so true. Quite often we make a plan, the plan may not always come off, but at least we've got one there, because I think we've got to understand where we're heading. And so we need to understand where A is, where we are now, and where B is in the future. So planning creates a focus on the outcomes and shines a light on the pathways that we choose to take. And that's why I love that thought of the day. And that's why I think planning is so important for us. So we've created an agenda for you today, and the agenda is set up in a way that easily walks through the things that you need to do as a business owner, because there's no doubt that business skills are the foundation of business success. And as a business owner, we spend a lifetime creating value by what we've learned. And the cost to acquire that knowledge can either be expensive through our mistakes, or can be inexpensive by getting the knowledge and experience before you need it by attending events such as this, reading books, doing programs that are all very, very good for us to increase our return on investment on our own IP and our own capability. But when starting out in business, most small business owners don't know what to do because we haven't been told how to run a business. We tend to stay in our comfort zones. We tend to stay in the things that we like to do ourselves. And therefore, we've created an agenda today to help walk you through why you should plan, where you should start, what the pillars of planning are, the next steps you should take, and the burning issues. And believe me, I've dealt with hundreds of businesses. Every business owner is in the same boat. We've all got things to work on in our business. We've all got opportunities in our business. We've all got threats in our business. So you're not alone. Everyone's the same. We're all learning as we go. So why plan? Well, let's start with a question. What do you want to achieve in life? Because ultimately your business should be a vehicle to help you towards those achievements. And many business owners find it difficult to articulate what success actually looks like for them. What is your business going to look like in 12 months? How about the question, what's it going to look like in 5 years? These aren't easy questions to answer, but we should have some idea as we go. And an analogy that I like to use is taking a flight on a plane. So when you think about taking a flight, you book the flight so you know where A is or where you're going or where you're taking your bag to catch that flight, but you also know where B is and you understand what hotel you need to book where at the other end. And in the middle, the airline takes care of everything else. So they've got a specific plan to get you there safely and efficiently. And really, your business is no different. Your business needs to get from A to B as safely and as efficiently as possible. The biggest difference is that you're in control of that plan from A to B. So metaphorically, what does your plane need to look like? What is it now? And what would you like it to be in the future? Of course, plans are ever evolving. Turbulence and diversions happen, and we have to be resilient to weather the hard times. But a map by way of a business plan ensures that you do have resilience, because you know where your destination is, you know how you're getting there, and when you go off course, you're able to get yourself back on course. And one of the main reasons why I'm hosting this webinar is to prevent people in business spending years not thinking about where they're heading to before they finally, the light bulb goes on, they get really tired, they get frustrated with their business, they aren't kicking the goals they need to kick, and they then realize that they have to stop, get a mentor, and do some planning. So really, to use that runway analogy, we want to make sure that you're on the right type of plane, you've got enough fuel, you've got the right crew on board, and your plane's actually pointed in the right direction as well. Because you don't want to be traveling too long in the wrong direction, because it just costs you time and money. And really, the biggest investment that you can make in yourself is learning how to do those key things that business owners must do to have a successful business. Because if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And so you need to understand your responsibilities. You know, I always say to people, you need to surround yourself with great people. So chartered accountant, your business mentor, your lawyer, your banker, people in the game that you're in that you can learn from, that you can understand from, is really, really important. So where do you start? So there are plenty of templates out there that you can use. If you Google business plan or strategic plan, you will get literally thousands of different options. I would just really encourage you to keep it as simple as possible. So I normally go for a one-page plan, and that allows you to get the high-end information on a piece of paper that you can easily refer to, that you can easily talk to other people about, and it doesn't become this massive document that makes it really hard for you to pick out from the bottom drawer and actually use on a regular basis. So what are the elements that we need to have? And so I've created some pillars for you today as we go through what a business plan should look like on a page. And the first one is around creating clarity. So mainly identifying, your core purpose, your core values, your vision. Then you need to identify your value proposition, because in business, everyone has to sell. Then you need to understand your numbers that you want to achieve to get the things that you want out of life. And you also need to perform a tactical SWOT analysis. So we need to understand what our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats are within our business. But we also need to prioritize our main projects and just work through things one thing at a time and one project at a time. And then you need to have those individual actions and accountabilities that actually carry it through for us. So if we look at creating clarity first, so I've broken this into three parts. The first part being your core purpose. Now, your core purpose should reveal your fundamental reason for being and why you're there in your business doing what you're doing. And it kind of creates an importance within the workplace, within your team, and gives your customers an easy understanding of why you're there and what you're doing for them. And it's supposed to evoke an emotional response in people. And so it can't be something generic, it has to be something special, and it has to be something that reflects you. The second part of creating clarity is all about articulating your business vision. So where do you want it to be in the future? If you think about a vision, it's a picture. So you want to understand what success actually looks like. And as business owners, we definitely need clarity about what really matters, so we can choose the things that take us closer to our end vision and dismiss the things that are going to take us away from that end vision. Because after all, look, if you don't know where you're going, how do you know if you've got there? And you'll always feel like you're coming up short in business. And one of the worst things we can do as a business owner is keep shifting our goalposts. So it's important that we set goals for ourselves and then measure against them, and don't just almost get there and then move those goalposts again, because we feel ultimately like we've never been successful. And yet if we were to go back and reflect on the things that we've done in our business, we actually achieve a lot often. We just don't give ourselves credit because we're always going towards that utopia that we think we're trying to create. You can also use a vision in your marketing material as well. So it's a great place to start, and it gives you a consistent message out to the market over a long period of time. The third element of clarity, I think, is around your business values. So values is a term that's often thrown around by many people. Quite often there's confusion about what they are and how they should be used. I split values into two different types. There's permission to play values and core values. So permission to play values are minimum standards of behavior expected inside your business from anyone that interacts with you. As a rule of thumb, you just can't tolerate anyone who doesn't observe these values. And although they might seem obvious to state, I think they're really important, because what it does is it sets the line in the sand, and it allows you to consistently repeat the same things over and over to your team, to your customers. That gives them a sense of personality, a belonging, but also gives them some rules of the game. The permission to play values are quite often similar across countries and across companies as well, industries, regions. They're very similar, and they're things like honesty, integrity, truthfulness, respect for others. Whatever you want to keep repeating and you want to make sure that your team does, that you make sure your customers adhere to, they're the sort of things that you want to put into those permission to play values. Core values, on the other hand, are quite different. They're deeply ingrained principles that guide the company's decisions and serve as a cultural cornerstone for your business. They should never be compromised for either short-term gain or for convenience, and they often reflect the values of the founders of the business. It's important to remember that you've got to be congruent with whatever values that you choose, though, when going through this business plan, because people will be watching you and looking to see that, first of all, you practice what you preach, but second of all, that you react proactively when people are caught not living into those values. So once you have these three pieces of clarity, your core purpose, your core values, and your vision, you've pretty much got the heart of your business on a bumper sticker. And I think that's really important to illustrate to everyone that you know yourself, and you're able to easily articulate that in a consistent way. So let's move on to managing the metrics inside your business. Now, metrics is often called KPIs, or key performance indicators, and this helps measure the performance of your business against the objectives that you have. Now, these indicators need to be easily found, they need to be easily measurable and linked to the crucial drivers of your success. Many people get way too fancy with them and have way too many of them. Think of it like your car dashboard, where you've got just the really important things in front of you. You've got the speed that you're doing, you know how much fuel's left in the car, you know whether it's hot, the engine's hot or cold. So you've got these key functions of your business in a dashboard that's really easy to see. And they need to be succinct, they need to be clear, they need to be relevant, they need to inspire people, and they need to be actionable. And really, if you can find some benchmarks, that's great. If you can't, then I often say to small business owners, you need to compare with what you were doing last week, last month, last year, so you get a sense of progression as you go. But when you're developing KPIs, just start with basic ones. What are your business objectives? How do you plan on achieving them? And what information can you actually act on that drive performance, that drive action, and drive the outcomes that you want? So that it's not always easy, it can be tricky, and they will change over time. So as you get really proficient at one part of your business, you might move that KPI out of the main spotlight and move another one in. So some great questions to help identify your KPIs might include, what is your desired outcome? And why does that outcome matter? How are you going to measure that progress? How can you influence the outcomes? Who's going to be responsible for that outcome? And how are you going to go about achieving that outcome? And how often will you review that progress? So some KPIs in businesses are reported on daily, weekly, monthly. Sometimes they benchmark yearly. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve and where you want to put the focus on in your business. But remember, they should be SMART, so specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And KPIs do need to be customized to your business. So don't just copy somebody else's or Google 101 it and then just see what others in your industry are looking at. These should be specific to the goals that you want to achieve. So if you want to achieve a productivity gain, then look to what drives that productivity gain and measure that. They need to align to your business goals and your business strategy. They need to cover all the bases. They need to be able to be accurately measured, and you don't want people to be able to debate them, because if you can debate them, then you're going to have problems, because people will look at things differently. And lastly, they've got to be able to impact the team. So if you've got KPIs that are there, no one can actually action them, they're not actually worth an awful lot to you. So going on to the next part, what every business wants out of a business plan is to show them the cash. And cash is really important to a business. Profit is really important to a business. So what I like to do with the people that I work with is to ask them a really interesting question, in that, what should your business actually be making per year for you after you've paid yourself a salary? And that's a really interesting question that not a lot of people can answer. And I always like to work from a strategic budget from the bottom up. So let's just say if you want to make $100,000 a year, then I would then ask them what their overheads are. And the overheads are the costs like rent, phone, power, those sorts of things. And let's just say that that was $50,000 a year. Then you know that your gross profit, so your sales after your cost of goods sold, need to be $150,000. And then if we know that our gross, if we double our buy price to our sale price of 50%, we know that $150,000 needs to be $300,000 sales for a year. And what that allows us to do is really perform a sniff test on it to say, does that feel right? Am I going to be able to achieve that sales figure? And this is a really important question to answer. So you can start by dividing that 300,000. Let's say you divide it by 12 months. So we know we roughly need $25,000 a month in sales. Does that feel right? Is that achievable? Is that too much? Is it too less? Is it a stretch target for ourselves? And then you can maybe divide it by the number of weeks. So you think, well, I need roughly $6,000 a week in sales. How does that feel to me? And then you could even break it down into a daily amount, saying, well, I'm open 6 days a week, so I need about $1,000 a day. Is that achievable to me? And so these are really fundamental strategic questions that we need to ask ourselves, because a business is there as a vehicle to serve you as the owner. And it needs to return the sort of investment that you need it to provide to kick the goals that you need to in life. So I don't want a plan to be wishful thinking. I want it to be grounded in real life actuals. Can I achieve this? And a strategic budget is very simple. It doesn't go into all the detail of a normal budget that you do for an operational budget for the year or something you do for a bank. It's really testing to see where your limits are. And it's a really cool process to go through just to see where the opportunities are for you and what you might be able to do. But of course, once you've got that initial idea of what sales you're going to get and what profit, you need to have a tactical analysis. And to do that, you need to have a value proposition. So a value proposition refers to what value the company promises to deliver to customers should they buy their product or service. And this normally comes from a set of skills that you have inside the business. It's really a declaration of intent that introduces your brand to customers by telling them what it stands for, how it operates, and why it deserves their business. So if I use Malloch McClean as an example, my accounting firm here, we try to deliver smarter, better businesses to our clients. And that means helping them to make more money, pay less tax legally, and to get ahead quicker. And you heard that in my introduction. So it's something that's really repeatable, that people love to talk about and are interested in, and think that they will get some value out of working with us towards that. And so it convinces potential customers that a product or service will add more value, or it'll better solve a problem for them rather than going to a competitor or somebody that they're already with. So really what it does is it compels people to act, and it's designed to get your brand to stand apart from other brands. And if you can't explain your value proposition really simply, then there's a fundamental flaw in your positioning. And so think about that smarter, better business tagline. Think about what it means. The more money, less tax, getting ahead quicker. You know, that ticks all the boxes for the people that we work with. And if people don't want those things, which I can't imagine there's too many business people out there that don't, then we're not for them. So it's a great way to separate those that do want to work with you and those that don't. And so going to the tactical analysis that I was talking about before, you have to be able to step back in your business and make important assessments. And the most common and effective way that I've found to do this is a SWOT analysis. So a SWOT analysis stands for your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And also threats includes trends, because trends are something that are happening more and more in our business lives, and they are happening really, really quickly. So the terms can often be confused with each other. So I just want to take a minute to talk about strengths and weaknesses, which are internally focused on our business. So we're looking inside. So it's about our products, our people, our pricing. It's about our systems, our processes, all those sorts of things. While opportunities and threats and trends are generally externally focused. So we want to be able to build on our strengths, resolve or reduce our weaknesses where possible, exploit our opportunities, and avoid our threats. So you can work through the process and come up with a big list and then whittle it down to 2 or 3 in each area. And by the end, there should be one critical focus that you need to keep on top of. There's the one thing that you go, yes, this is the one thing that once I've done this plan, I need to go out and immediately take advantage of this opportunity, resolve or reduce this weakness, exploit the opportunity or avoid the threat. So I can't emphasize enough that this is such a powerful process to go through and will have a meaningful impact on how quickly you can take back control of your time, your mind, and your financial freedoms that you should have as a business owner. So once you've got clarity, know your metrics, understand your profit, understand what you need to convey to your clients in terms of a value proposition, and understand your SWOT. It's time to get the rubber to hit the road and identify your targets by bringing intention to action. Now, Napoleon Hill once said that a goal is a dream with a deadline. And look, I couldn't agree more with that. It's generally accepted that working to identify your targets and goals increases your performance, because goals influence the outcomes because they focus you on the actions that you should take to get the planned results. So you should use SMART goals. We've talked about SMART goals before, but we need to direct our attention and effort towards the goal-based activities, which naturally shift our attention away from the irrelevant things that we aren't actually wanting to achieve in our business. So quite often we get caught in our business doing the urgent things rather than the important things. And when we do that, when we don't work on the important things, we don't progress our business as quickly as possible. An example of that might be setting up a new system or a process or bringing in a new piece of software. We simply put that off because we're too busy. But by putting it off, we're not actually going and achieving our business goals as owners. So goals always energize and influence and generate a persistence and a hunger to work towards the desired results. So when you think about having a goal, it needs to be shared by everyone. We need to get buy-in from everyone. And if we can do that, then we get people working towards those goals as a team. Now, during the goal-based exercise, you'll need to follow a process to discover how to set your goals in a way that ensures that you have reached your targets. And look, performance rises when goals are clearly stated. They've got a degree of difficulty. They're accepted by those people chasing the targets. Celebrations are really important. So we need to be celebrating success, because people are always looking for that little bit of a pat on the back, and they're always looking for the social awareness from their peers to say, hey, well done. And we've just got to make sure that they're not revised before we hit the finish line. So we really do have to celebrate as we go. And I've learned that the secret to getting goals kicked is to break goals into milestones and actions, because it allows us to feel that sense of accomplishment as we go. And if I can use an example, I would use the example of a marathon. So let's just say that we decide to do a marathon. Completing the marathon's a great effort, and that's the end goal, but there's a lot of milestones to achieve on the way. You have to do a training program. You have to go and get you the right running shoes. You've got to get out there and actually do the training, and then you've got to be able to turn up on the day. And then as we go through and do a marathon, marathons have natural milestones. So at each mark 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile, they have markers. And we know that at certain markers, we're going to have a celebration, which is the drinks trolley or the, food trolley, where we can, get some more energy to keep going. But the really important thing to remember about a marathon is that near the end, it stops counting up and it starts counting down. So you've got 5 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles, 2 miles, 1 mile to go. And what that does is it changes our psychology and makes us stretch towards those goals with new vim and vigor, because as we run a marathon, we get tired. And as we create projects in our business, we get tired. So it's really important to have the same sort of methodology when we're going through creating goals for ourselves, and being able to break 5-year goals down into 2-year and 1 year, 90-day, 30-day, weekly, just is really powerful for us and really moves those projects forward. So you've got to ask yourself, what's next? So we've talked about business plan, the components within the business plan. You've invested your time in listening to this. It's obviously an area that you're interested in. Studies show that 76% of participants who plan by writing down their goals will achieve them, compared to just 46% of participants that didn't. So I'm hoping that you've learned a little bit about business planning from the session, but the next biggest question that you've got is, what are you going to do now? It could be the biggest turning point in your business life. Are you going to go back to your busy business and get immersed in the next phone call, email, or urgent priority? Or are you going to give yourself a little bit of space once you've finished listening to this to give yourself the best opportunity to plan what's next, so you can kick those goals that you should be kicking? I'd encourage you to find some sort of proactive step at the end of this. I listen to lots of webinars, I read lots of books, I read lots of news articles, and I know how easy it is to get back into the day-to-day grind. But I encourage you to book a course or a program, talk to your trusted advisor, engage a coach or a mentor, complete a plan. And look, there's details there. If you want to read my book, it's available on PDF, the 4hourbusinessplan.com. My business website is mmca.co.nz. And I've got my contact details. So if this has encouraged you to think more about how to plan, and you want that next step and you want a little bit of help, then please sing out. I'm really passionate about small business, and I'm really passionate about seeing people progress as quickly as they can towards their goals and their achievements. So thanks very much for listening. I really appreciate the opportunity you've given to me.
Awesome. How great was that? Thank you so much, John. That was so relevant. Start of the year, people are very interested in getting into their business planning and doing it effectively. So thank you. That covered so many things. We have a couple questions from our community. So I'll kick straight into these questions. First one being, do people need help putting their business plan together? Which you mentioned a little bit at that next step, but feel free to expand.
Yeah, look, I think ultimately, if you don't have the experience in putting a business plan together, then having someone to help you is always a really nice experience to go through.
Totally.
Or at least having a program to go through is perhaps the first step. So, I don't want people to get on Google, get a one-page plan, and then try and fill it themselves without any background. So do a program yourself, or if you need to, get a business mentor or a business coach or someone to help you. I've literally worked with hundreds of businesses, and when I do, and it's not just me, I'm sure lots of other business coaches and mentors will say exactly the same, it gives people a boost. I mean, when we see really successful business owners, they're not doing it on their own. They've got a team of people around them. When we see successful sports people, they've got all sorts of different coaches with them because they know they can't do it on their own. And business is no different. I mean, I still have a business coach, and I'm still learning things every day, both from him and from my clients, because we will simply not know everything. But an investment in yourself as a business owner, well, the return on that for the rest of your career is just absolutely enormous. And I just see so many business owners that come to me that have been in business 2, 3, 5, 10 years, and you spend a few sessions with them and they go, oh, I wish I've been in sessions where people go, I wish someone had told me this 20 years ago. And it's about moving people along. If you're really motivated to achieve, then I think getting help is a really good thing.
Yeah, awesome. It's so great to have a sounding board, and sometimes it can actually be quite lonely at the top. It's definitely a theme that comes through some of the other content that we do. So having someone to bounce ideas off in a non-judgment zone is gold. So that's awesome. Thanks, John. Another question here is, what do you see the most successful people doing in terms of business planning?
Yeah, so probably just moving forward with what I was just saying before, I think it's the mindset around the business plan that finally, I mean, normally we get into business because we're really good at something, or we have a passion for something, or we have an interest in the industry. We don't normally come in with a business degree, and all this knowledge that helps us run a business. Even if we've managed a business before, owning it is a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
So, for me, I guess it's probably just trying to, surround yourself with the right people, but also just get in a discipline and get into a rhythm and give yourself those 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a week minimum that you need as a business owner to work on your business.
Right.
And to look at all the opportunities that are there and just to be smarter. I mean, I just see people doubling down and working harder to get to the end result, whereas there's so many opportunities to get there in a smarter way. So, having a business mentor would probably be the one thing that I see business owners doing the most.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. Another one here is, how often do people need to refer back to their business plan? I've heard a couple of people say, I wrote a business plan and then I picked it up 5 years later or something. And, obviously that's not too helpful. So what's ideal?
So look, it's different for every business, but what I would say is if you're doing it on a one-page plan, and that's why I wrote a book about the one-page plan, is because it's one page.
Awesome.
Like if you can't stick it on the inside of your compendium or put it beside your computer, then I think there's something wrong with the plan. So you need to be able to have it where you're aware of it all the time, and to create some discipline on how often you review it. So look, some businesses pulse really quickly and they kick a lot of goals really quickly, so they have to do more planning more often. Others are doing it at a slower pace, and that's okay as well. So they need to review it less often. So what I say to people is, hey, look, annually you should be reviewing your business plan because you should be setting a budget and doing all those other sorts of things that as a business owner are non-negotiable in my opinion.
Yeah.
You also want to revisit it, especially the goal side of it. So you have your one-page plan, and then you might have your list of projects. And so your list of projects, it's like anything. We all need a little bit of accountability. So my business coach, we set some projects, we set some goals for the month, and then we go through them. And the day before I meet them, I'm busy trying to get everything done because that's accountability, right?
Yeah.
And then other clients that we've got here, we meet them every 3 months. And that's fine as well because that suits them. So, look, I would say you've got to be reviewing your projects at least quarterly and your plan at least annually. And having someone to hold you to account is really important.
Yeah, that accountability is key. Or else that day sort of comes up and you're like, oh, we'll move that one. So, yeah, definitely, for sure. That's awesome. Cool. Another one we have here is, what is the biggest mistake you see business owners make when putting their business plan together?
I think we've all got a natural bias towards what we think we're good at. And we probably don't see necessarily our weaknesses very well. And we tend to want to paint too rosy a picture. So we all get into business, think we're going to be in this utopia. Oh, finally, I'm away from a salary or a wage. That's awesome. I'm going to be my own boss. All these sorts of things start happening, and we think it's really cool because I saw a picture the other day, and it had a picture of a sidewalk, and there was a person standing at the beginning of the street, and they were looking right down the end, and there was nothing between them, and their goal was to get to the shop at the end of the street. And that's how we feel when we first get into business. But the reality is that by the time we get into business, there's 1,000 people standing on that street and we can't get through it. And, for us, it's about painting it too rosy a picture, I think, and not understanding or having that objectivity to be questioned about what's going to make us better, because those that get ahead get better. And normally we have to work on the things that we don't like to work on. to get ahead. And I got one of my clients, he often says to me, if you want to be successful, you've got to do the thing that everybody else hates doing.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Then you're going to have that thing that everyone else wants.
Yeah.
And for business owners, look, I would say that 20% maybe have a plan, and maybe 5 to 10% have an active plan.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, that's written down in some sort of order that they've looked at in the last, 3 to 5 years. So, for me, it's about, if you want to do the hard things, it's and it's not that hard. It's just got to put time away, get that plan and get some accountability.
Awesome. So great. Similar vein, but biggest roadblock to doing a plan?
Time.
Yeah.
Right. It's as simple as that. Business owners are normally pretty good at what they do, or they've got a lot of balls in the air and they just work on the urgent stuff, not necessarily the important stuff. And the important things are things like planning around reflection on your business and how you're going, about reading your financials, understanding first, and then reading your financial statements, looking at those key metrics in your business, looking at systems and processes, because they're all the things that give us leverage in business. And I would far rather work less hours in a smarter way than get to my goals by working really hard. And, I see this all the time with business owners who are transitioning through to their son or daughter, and they're saying to their son or daughter, don't work the hours that I worked.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I was in a meeting literally yesterday, and he was saying about how much he was enjoying his grandchildren, because he missed literally the formative years of his children's life.
Wow. Yeah.
But that happens to a lot of business owners, because we're simply busy and we think we're doing well, but we're not really. And on reflection, everyone has regrets, but it's about trying to look down the track, find out what that destination is. And if you could go 5 or 10 years down the track and say, these are the things that I want to be remembered for, and these are things I want to be successful at, then you need to change that behavior today. And that's where the planning process comes in. So it's not all about money. It's all about your time freedom you have as well, and your mind freedom. So not stressed out all the time.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, definitely. That's great. And the last one here, which I think you've mentioned before, but maybe just say it again and we'll put it in the notes, is where can people get a hold of your book, The 4-Hour Business Plan?
Yeah, so it's available online at the 4hourbusinessplan.com. So that's the number 4.
Awesome.
4hourbusinessplan.com, and that's in PDF. So I've put it there as a PDF so people can access it really easily. And yeah, it's got everything just really in a lot more detail, and hopefully gives better context to people around business planning as well.
Awesome.
Because we aren't taught by anyone how to run a business, and we've got to learn and find out it ourselves. So I've tried to put my 20 years of experience into an easy to read book for people to get on that ladder and start their journey.
Great. Thank you, John. That's so valuable, really relevant. And I know that those listening will get a lot out of this. So we'll make sure to put that in our show notes as well, so people can click on that and download that PDF real easily. So appreciate it. And thank you for your time.
Thanks so much. Wonderful.